Welcome, everyone. My apologies. There was some traffic on our ever popular Route 22. So I apologize. Welcome to our monthly planning commission. My name is Ron Molosky. I'm the chair of the meeting. To my immediate left are Matt Malozzi, Mr. Tom Barker, Ms. Joy Cohen, Mr. Eddie Burgos. We ask everyone in attendance, please silence your cell phones at this time. Today, we will go through the agenda items as listed. Each applicant will have a chance to present their project to the commission as their agenda item is called. Following that presentation, city staff will provide an overview of the city's comments and a recommendation. Then the planning commission members will have an opportunity to direct questions related to the project to both applicant and the city staff. Following planning commission discussion, interested parties will have an opportunity to comment on or ask questions related to the project. We ask that anyone here in attendance adhere to a 5-minute time limit. We do have a sign-in sheet if you are going to ask any questions or give any public comment. All we ask is when you're done giving your comment, please sign the sign-in sheet. Where there are a significant number of interested parties, we request that members of the public be concise and avoid repeating previously made assertions. After all interested parties have had an opportunity to speak, planning commission members will have a final opportunity to deliberate. The review of the planning commission is based on provisions of the SALDO, zoning ordinances, and other ordinances as applicable. Decisions will be based on these applicable ordinances, recommendation of city staff, pertinent public comment, and the public good. Our first agenda item is the approval of March 9th, 2023 minutes. Any discussion on the minutes? Mr. Malozzi.
There's probably a de minimis misspelling of one of the commissioners' names, which I've identified to the secretary. So I think we're fine with that.
Who might that commission member be, Mr. Malozzi?
Kind of melding of Malozzi and Molosky together.
Malozzi and Molosky. Okay, we'll make sure that gets addressed. Any other discussion? Can we have a motion on the March 9th minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting of the March 9th minutes with the noted correction.
Motion made, Mr. Malozzi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Barker. Roll, please.
Mr. Burgos?
Yes.
Ms. Cohen?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, this is fine.
Mr. Malozzi?
Yes.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
And Mr. Molosky?
Yes. Motion to approve the minutes is carried. Our next agenda item is the land development subdivision plan at 3410, 3412 Linden Street. Will the applicant please introduce yourself and you may begin.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Joseph Renko from Black Forest Engineering. How are you all tonight? Good.
Good.
I take it. So I'm here representing the applicant's project at 3410 Linden Street. We were here quite a while ago with a sketch plan, which looked a little bit different, which resulted in us going to the zoning board. I believe maybe we were back to the planning commission again after that. And the reason for that was at that time, the applicant was seeking some relief for, I think it was maybe like a 15 or 16 unit apartment building, which did not meet the density requirements of your zoning ordinance. So after a few meetings, definitely some staff meetings, definitely a lot of thought and consideration went into this and how to maybe make this plan work a little bit better for both the applicant and the city. We came back with this revised plan. It's a 10-unit apartment building, which is again meets the density requirements. So zoning relief was not needed. One of the major changes here was that the proposed parking lot shifted from the front of the building to the side of the building, which again sort of meets the intent of the zoning ordinance with not keeping parking in front of the building. This building, as some of the stuff I know we've talked about before, I've said before, but I'll just say it again. This proposed apartment building replaces an existing 4-unit building, which it has existing parking on the property. I don't know if we have a picture of it, but the building right now in the existing condition, it's not in the best condition. I mean, it's not the curb appeal really isn't there. So this building, I think will be a tremendous improvement to the city, and especially to that streetscape, Linden Street, which is I'd say a main thoroughfare for the city. So the project is between the existing pavement that's out there that we would be taking away and the building that we'd be raising. The net increase in impervious is less than 10,000 square feet. However, we're still proposing a stormwater management facility on the site, just to be respectful of the neighbors and compliant with ordinance, any of the other ordinance requirements. I brought a copy of our landscape plan, which, some of the things that we talked about at both the planning commission and the zoning level, in our previous meetings, were that there were neighbors here that were concerned about the apartment building and making sure that there would be adequate, screening and buffering. So I brought a plan to show that we're proposing almost 100 bushes. We have multiple trees, and we also have a vinyl fence, a 4-foot vinyl fence, basically as a delineator between the parking lot and the proposed property line. So that would basically, on top of the green vegetation, that would take care of any kind of headlight glare if a car were to park in against those adjoining or abutting lots. Thank you, darling. If anybody wants to see it, here and I can come back, but this is the screening that I basically the green screening that I talked about, which is basically around the entire perimeter of the property. And then on top of that, where we have some proposed parking spaces, we proposed a 4-foot vinyl fence so that there'd be no headlight shine that would intrude on these the property owners and the adjoining neighbors. So also to comply with zoning with the 10-unit use, we would need 20 parking spaces, which we provided. We've got two ADA handicap accessible parking spaces proposed. We have, in addition, I have 2 EV parking stalls in the east corner of the property or parking lot. We have a screened dumpster enclosure in the back of the parking lot. And then there's a striped turnaround area, which I'll just point to again. So the dumpster enclosure is in this back corner. We have a striped turnaround area here that we have a turning template that we ran for the largest fire truck that the city has, so that if in the case of an emergency and the fire truck needed to get into the property, the fire truck would have the ability to back up and do a K-turn as opposed to backing out into Linden Street. So it would be served also by the trash removal truck as well. So that was the point of having that striped area there. And I think that's everything I had to just sort of mention. But obviously, I'm here to answer questions too.
Thank you, Mr. Ranko. Appreciate your explanation. And certainly we do recall you coming in for site plan review, and it's obviously that you took some of our feedback and the city's feedback. You didn't have to go to zoning with I believe it was the building height or dimensions of variance or so. So
Mr. Barker had a great idea when we were here with the site plan. I'm giving you some credit here. We had this big building, and Alan wanted density to get more units. So you said instead of doing 2 floors in this big footprint, why don't we go up to 3? So we did that and it worked out really nice. We had a nice plan, but the zoning board they didn't feel it. And they didn't feel, I think it was the density. And I think there were neighbors here again that it was just too much on this site for their comfort level. So we came back with a 10 unit, definitely a smaller footprint.
Excellent. Sure. And compliment Mr. Parker as well for putting that in your, we take, kind of take some pride in having some of the feedback
Yeah.
recognized. So we appreciate that. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Heller to add anything from the April 6th memo.
Yeah, Craig signed off on this one while I was
Yeah,
away
sure.
from the office, so he'll,
Mr. Pfeiffer, appreciate any comments, any additions you can add from the April 6th letter.
Certainly. Let me just say it's so nice to sit up here with all of you for the first time. And I'll just keep this brief. There's just some basic comments. You did receive this letter in your packets. The Public Works Department did note that there's still the planning module that has to be reviewed by DEP, and then that will give us a final dollar value on the fees, and that there is an additional impervious coverage fee. Applicant is aware of that and has no issue. The engineer did point out that Linden Street is a state highway, so there is some comments that pertain to making sure that there is continuing coordination between the applicant's engineer, the city's engineer, and PennDOT. The general comments, Lanta did actually go out and make a couple compliments as well as some comments. The compliments were just that this is a known area for gap in sidewalk and pedestrian connectivity, and that they appreciated the fact that this is going to significantly reduce that gap. And furthermore, they were pleased with the intent to bring the pedestrian into the site through a dedicated sidewalk as well. The EAC comments unfortunately did not make it into your packet. However, we do have their letter. I'll just briefly sum up their recommendations to use sustainable building materials and energy efficient measures. They recommended the solar assessment and, if feasible, solar rooftop systems. They did provide some financial tools to help offset those upfront costs. And then they recommended the natural buffer, which of course Joe didn't get a chance to see this letter, but he did address in his landscape plan to help not only just buffer the property from adjacent properties, but also to help in stormwater management. And lastly, they also came out with several recommendations or accommodations or applauses, and that was they appreciated the bicycle rack. They did suggest that if there was a way that that could be covered in some way, that that would go a longer way to help, and that they very much appreciated the inclusion of the 2 EV charging stations. And with that being said, if you don't have any questions for staff, we did recommend that you consider approval of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeiffer. Appreciate those. Any questions or comments by any planning commission members for Mr. Pfeiffer, Mr. Renko, as it pertains to this land development subdivision?
You said you needed 20 spots. Why 20?
On this one, we came up with 2 spaces per unit as opposed to the 1.75. And I'm not sure, I don't remember exactly where that came from, but at one point that's how we calculated it. So it's maybe a little bit more, but a little bit more than normal.
Ms. Cohen?
I have a question regarding the agenda says land development subdivision, but I'm sorry, nothing, the agenda mentions the consolidation of the 2 lots, but the letter from the city does not. So I just want to point out that we need to consolidate the 2 lots as part of our decision tonight.
Mr. Pfeiffer, Ms. Heller, anything to, I can see the confusion there from
Yeah,
Ms. Cohen.
Ms. Cohen is correct. There is currently 2 parcels, and this existing structure straddles the property line of those. The applicant intends to consolidate those parcels as part of this process.
And so certainly, and we've done this in the past, when we act on it, we will make sure that's included.
And then I have 2 other questions.
Yes, Ms. Cohen.
Do you have a floor plan and elevations of the front of the building?
So I apologize. I don't have them with me,
They're-
but we did submit them. So Thank you, Craig. You're going to save me today. We do have some color renderings.
Do you have them online, Mr. Piper?
And while he's doing that,
There's,
That's kind of what we came up, well, not I, but what the owner came up with.
the elevation on the left end, is that the street view
Yeah,
previous?
I believe the street, they're supposed to be sort of mirrored, I believe.
Mr. Pfeiffer, could you show the middle rendering?
They're actually neither the street view. That's against the parking lot right there.
Mm-hmm. And it looks to be the back of the building on the left.
Yeah, the red one would be the rear.
We always prefer that the front of the building, in this case facing Linden Street, would have some of the same architectural articulation as the sides. I'm a little concerned if the back and the front of the short ends of the rectangle look plain like the one that's showing there on the screen. I would recommend that you work with the city to come up with a pleasantly appealing front facade. My last question then is on the site plan. I do appreciate that you're showing sidewalks, and I believe the city also commended you on doing that. There is a small portion, maybe 5 feet long, on the south end of the site at the just at the property line, which is not showing a sidewalk. And I'm wondering, upper left corner, what the reasoning is for that. And
I think my answer for that, I think it had to do with the topography. So if we were to extend the sidewalk, so the elevation, if we were to extend the sidewalk to the property line, we'd have to get a grading easement to bring that grade down on that adjoining neighbor's property. So that's why we stopped at where we did, because we could tie in a 3-to-1 slope back into existing grade.
so I would, again, you're showing the sidewalk, but if it's not going for the full size of the property, you'd be deferring that short portion of it until the rest of the sidewalk on Linden Street is extended, that you would be able to tie in at that point?
If that's how the city would like to handle it, we would, yeah, I guess we could request a deferral. It's like you said, it's only about 4 to 5 feet. I mean, you could have the applicant post security for it now, if that would make you happy.
I would defer to Public Works on that. What you would require for that 5-foot stretch, or what you would want to see. I don't know that we've ever seen a situation like that before.
Mr. Yandom, if you don't mind, yes, go ahead.
Mrs. Cohen, we'll certainly work with the city engineer, and whatever is acceptable to them, we'll provide it.
Thank you. I appreciate that you put the sidewalk in. I'm just concerned if, 5 or 10 years from now, the adjacent property puts in a sidewalk and then there's a hole that someone has to transverse. Thank you.
I would piggyback off what Ms. Cohen said in reference to the front of the building. And again, the renderings, I'm not certain if that was the definite final. Just work with Ms. Heller and her staff
Yeah,
in terms of the architectural appearance, something that, we want to make sure is consistent. So any other questions or comments by the Planning Commission? Mr. Burgos.
Mr. Redcar, 2 questions on the storm. So I see you have underground infiltration basin, and you have a geo liner, or should I say fabric, is there a liner going to be set on top of that?
So the way that it's designed is there's a, and I'll just give everyone this story. So we there was a probe done and a double ring infiltrometer test was ran to make sure that the soil, number one, that there's not a limiting zone, and to make sure that the soil does infiltrate. So the design then is basically it's a stone pit. So the site basically a hole gets excavated. A non-woven geotextile fabric is, as you mentioned, gets laid down. Rock gets placed in that. There's an outfall pipe, and then you lay fabric down on top of the stone, and then you backfill it with your topsoil, and it gets seeded. The fabric is basically to let water pass through, but to keep dirt from choking up that void space in the stone, because the void space in the stone is where you get the actual retention volume for stormwater. Conveniently, there is an inlet box right in Linden Street in front of the property. So any of the overflow that doesn't get infiltrated into the ground, the subgrade, would overflow through the outlet structure and into that box.
And a second question, so around the job is you have 15-inch ADS pipe running up to that box, up to your infiltration bed there. Then it reduces down to 12-inch. Is there, shouldn't it kept it like the same diameter, or is there a reason why it's shrinking down from 15 to 12 going into your tie-in on the road?
So the only reason is after the basin, there's routings that support routing calculations to support that. So the outflow from that basin, and I don't have the report with me, but the outflow from that basin is very, very minimal, because the majority of the water is actually, it's intended to infiltrate.
It's a flat run.
Yeah. So the outflow of that pond is, less than a CFS. So even a 12-inch pipe is technically over designed for the outflow of that basin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burgos. Any other questions by the planning commission? Mr. Malozzi.
Mr. Renko, you noted that the height of the fence along the northern property boundary is 4 feet.
That's what we proposed, correct?
Okay. Is anything, any reason why that seems like a lower fence, and perhaps nothing wrong with that, but
So the only, we wanted to save money. No, I'm just
there's a
kidding.
reason. Yeah.
So we as I mentioned too, the fence wasn't necessarily needed. We put we wanted the green, we wanted the green buffering. It's more, again, I think it looks nicer. It's more friendly. The only reason for the vinyl fence, which sometimes we use those vinyl fences to meet that 6-foot buffer, which in this case, we didn't need to do that. The vinyl fence really is there for, again, to dissipate the headlights so that you don't have that spillage over into the property. So this is my fault. I assumed 4 feet was more than enough for the extra 2 feet on the height isn't really going to stop anything with the headlights. So that's why we went with a 4 foot.
Okay. Just kind of belt and suspenders on the headlight bleeding to the other
Yeah.
side. Okay.
If you guys prefer 6 foot, there's a better reason for it, I'm happy to propose that.
Thank you. And in terms of the sidewalk, just a thought. You have to submit an engineer's estimate probable cost.
Yeah.
Is that a way to capture that potentially? Just the easiest way? Mr. Yanam. Sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Yanam. I apologize. I knew you had something I forgot, so go ahead.
I want to add a comment that when they submit for a building permit for the sidewalk permit, especially in the building, we can put where a note for an agreement that when the adjacent property will be developed and they connect the sidewalk, they have to work together to add the extra 5 foot to meet the grade. And that could cover those 5 feet of connecting at a later stage. And with the agreement of the owner of the property, they can both work together to slope the sidewalk in a way they still meet ADA.
I see no reason why not.
Slope for both properties.
I like it.
And Mr. Malozzi, your point is what I maybe I just misworded it when I said we could post security for it, but that's where we would post the escrow with that cost estimate.
Mhm.
We would include that full sidewalk frontage all the way to the property line. And even though he doesn't install it right now, you technically the city can hold on to that money. So it's a security that There isn't going to be a hole there when that next guy comes in.
Thank you.
I mean, we'll just put that in the developers agreement.
And Mr. Renko, obviously, we have some very good comments here that you seem to be in compliance with. Everything else here on this April 6th letter, you're fine with as well, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions? Anyone here in attendance like to make any comment or ask any questions in reference to the land development subdivision at 3410 Linden Street? Seeing none, I actually drove by there again today. I often go that way, and certainly we're not looking to critique the current status, but you were being very kind, Mr. Renko, when you had mentioned the appearance right now as it stands. So I really believe this is a solid project that will really help that area there in terms of just the overall appearance and the newer units. So any other final comments, anything? I will entertain a motion at this time.
Chairman Malosky, I'll make a motion that, and we can, I guess first I have to check with the solicitor. We can combine or separate the,
We can combine the
Combine,
subdivision.
okay,
and
all right.
the-
I'll make a motion that we approve the land development and subdivision plan for 3410 to 3412 Linden Street, contingent upon the applicant meeting all of the criteria outlined in the city's April 6, 2023 review letter, and also with the following two notes, that the proposed gap in sidewalk to the south will be noted in the developer's agreement to be addressed in the future. And
That the appropriate security will be posted by the developer as set forth in the developer's agreement.
is what I meant to say. And that the applicant will also work with the city to apply treatments to the side of the building that faces Linden Street to try to make it more attractive and befitting what will be perceived as the front of the building to travelers.
It only benefits the applicant
Right.
to do that.
Right. Motion made, Mr. Malozzi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Barker. Roll, please.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Burgos,
Yes.
Mr. Malozzi,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
and Mr. Malosky.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Renko. Appreciate your time. Best of luck moving forward.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Be careful.
Our next agenda item is a zoning text amendment. I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Heller.
Okay, this is pretty brief amendment. We've talked about the cap with you before, trying to be more friendly to environmental partners that we have in the community and to try to promote that kind of thing. So this is an amendment that will address, as you can see in the amendment, we add clarification for three definitions: community recreation center, environmental education center, and a nature preserve. Mayor has made an announcement few months ago about the opportunity to create a new community recreation center in South Bethlehem. And so these definitions really just help to clarify and define new uses. These are not included at this point in time. In sections 2 and 3 and 4, we're also noting that a daycare can be included. Right now, a daycare is included as an accessory use to a place of worship. I think also to schools, things like that. So we are just clarifying that a daycare center can also be added to an environmental education center. That would be accessory in use, but it could be incorporated into that overall use. in section 5, we include some additional provisions for an environmental education center. The kinds of things that it may include, such as, performance space and wildlife viewing areas and trails and playscapes and things like that. We clarify in number 2 the amount or type of parking that might be necessary for that use. And if there is a daycare that's included, that they need to meet all the requirements in our ordinance and also in the state requirements, which that would apply to any daycare anywhere in the city. So it's fairly brief. It's pretty specific. When we have zoning ordinance revisions, the Planning Commission is a recommending body. So here you make a recommendation to support or not support, and that recommendation goes forward to City Council for their final action.
Thank you, Ms. Heller. Any questions for Ms. Heller in reference to our zoning text amendment here? Again, we are just giving our recommendation to be passed along to City Council. Mr. Malozzi, yes.
Just to make sure I'm not missing the connection, from the city's memo and the way it's explained, this is to support the climate action plan, and the definitions make sense. I guess, well, the community recreation center and environmental education center, but is there something specific about the inclusion of daycare into these uses that is connected to the climate action plan?
Well, we want to be supportive. So typically these are nonprofits, and they would have activities at the site that would help them to be sustainable, et cetera. And so I think that we want to include opportunities for a variety of activities there that still would fall under the parameter of education or nature-based play or things like that.
I think it was a desire not to preclude that particular use from also being present at an environmental education center.
Thank you.
Is it, I'm sorry. Jeremy,
Yes, I'm sorry, Ms. Cohen.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
Is it true that this would normally allow school-age children, and so the addition of the daycare center expands the use?
Yeah, can you say that again?
Is this true that this type of use would typically include school-age children, whereas adding the daycare center allows younger children to benefit from the environmental centers?
I guess it could include younger children. They, any daycare use would have to comply with the provisions in our ordinance and then also the state. So some of that is really accessibility and building code issues. The amount of space determines how many children you can have there, things like that, but it wouldn't prohibit younger children.
And a second question, in section 5, environmental education center, where it says maintenance equipment storage buildings, is that intended to include other utility buildings such as barns and sheds?
It could, if they are on the site, certainly.
Does it need to be expanded, or do you think maintenance equipment storage buildings already implies utility buildings such as barns and sheds?
Council, your input.
I feel it's expansive enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We spent a lot of time going over what should be included in there and what does not need, what's sort of superfluous, I guess, and what does not need to be included. And we tried to make this very broad. So I keep thinking about the example of the Nature Nurture Center in Easton. It's in downtown. And, you know, they don't really have any outdoor space, but they do education. They have exhibits. They have a variety of activities for not only children, but adults. They do tours. They do a wide range of things. And we just don't want to preclude any type of environmental education in the city. So it would also apply in a denser area of the city too.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Heller? I'll entertain a motion for our recommendation.
Oh, you have.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Anyone here have any comment as it pertains to the text amendment that we are acting on? Yes, my apologies. If you don't mind, give your name and address for the record, and then when you are done, there should be a sign-in sheet up there. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Victoria Bastidas. My address is 1311 Santee Mill Road, Bethlehem 18017. I just wanted to clarify a little bit about why we need to have childcare included in a nature education center. The Department of Human Services for the state of Pennsylvania regulates buildings where children will be either below school age or for children who are of school age up to age 16. They have an entire process that you have to go through. Those buildings have got to be certified that they meet the minimum requirements for a child care center, just to make sure that the buildings are safe for the children. And further, they do regulate so that all of the people that are employed there, yes, we are dealing with young people. So it is not just children below school age. It's any child under the age of 16 has got to have the child care. They can only, if they're going to be in a child outside of school, if they're going to be in an environment without a parent, that building has to be certified and meet all DHS regulations, and they come in every year. So that's why we're just trying to make sure that the places are safe and that the children are adequately cared for. If you choose not to do this, then no child under the age of 16 can attend any programming during school year without a parent. Which means, after school programs like if you've gone to any nature centers where they have after school programs where they learn birding or they, do things with the climate, or they are planting, or they're doing service, community service, they're not allowed to do it without a parent. So it's a very strange thing, but I recognize the state's concern for the welfare of the children. So that's the only reason for that. Any other questions?
Thank you, Ms. Mastias. We appreciate that clarification. And as a 30-year educator, I can definitely relate and confirm that you are correct that the state obviously is regulating all those issues. So anyone else here have any comment? Yes, sir, if you don't mind, come up, give your name and address for the record. And when you are finished, there is a sign-in sheet right at the podium for you. Thank you, Ms. Mastias. Appreciate you signing in.
Tom Kiefer, 3803 Carter Road, Bethlehem Township. Okay. I just want to say that this would be a great thing for the city of Bethlehem. I mean, it really would. In my generation, growing up, I was raised on the east side of Allentown, and I had an area that we called Mizpah Grove. Okay, it was by Moser School. That's where I spent most of my life. After school, after all homework was done, that's where I went. I mean, it was woods, it was nature. In the summertime, I spent my time on where St. Francis de Sales is now. That was a farm at one time that was called the, well, we called them mom and pa, but it was, that was all farm. I spent my summers there. I spent it outside. Kids today don't spend any time outside. This would help for children to spend time outside, for children to be able to learn nature, which is something that everybody should know. Know your animals, know your trees, know anything you can learn about nature. It's a would be a wonderful thing if it's inner city or if it's on the outskirts of the city, no matter where it would be. I myself spend a great deal of time at Camel Home Farms. I spent my time there for the past 8 years. Brought me out of depression because I can no longer work. It's a great place to be. As I said, as a child, I spent my time basically the same way. And it is a great feeling to be able to do it again at my age. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kiefer. We appreciate your support, your passion, and taking the time to give your comments. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Yes, if you don't mind, come on up. Okay. Yep.
Hi, I'm Rich Yazza, 1368 Santee Mill Road, Bethlehem, PA. I'm literally the property across the street from the open area. I've been there for, my wife and I have been there for almost 43 years. So we were one of the first ones to build in that area, except for Rossioli up on the top. I knew the Leckenbys, the family. I knew the condition of the property, as I say, for most of that period of time. I will also say to you, I've never met somebody as dedicated to preserving open land and allow free access to anybody who wants to use it. And since I live across there, I see mother and fathers or mothers coming during the day with toddlers or 3 or 4 year olds with them walking through the area, just carousing and looking at things and playing. I see this on weekends as well. We have no place in that area that is not private land anywhere close, that even some children could come on bicycles to that area. So we're really anymore, and this is generationally and doesn't have anything to do specifically, but I believe we're generationally promoting people to get used to a life that is simply indoors in the metaverse or wherever, rather than spending any time outdoors. This lady has given, and I know her, she's a blast, but I've never met anybody who had the intentions to give as she has, because almost all the labor, if you remember the property, what the property looked like 12 years ago, and you look at it now, anybody who says it's not an incredible improvement, we used to find dead deer rotting away on the other side of the street. The Leckenbys, God bless them, they had no ability to do anything with the property. She has, and has done most of it literally, not only with volunteers, but with her own labor. So it's for a good, besides putting in everything that costs virtually nothing to anybody, besides doing it all, and then opening it up for everybody's free use. I think it's a very, very worthy project and would serve the city of Bethlehem and Bethlehem Township very, very well. So I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hans. I appreciate it. I would add that I'm very familiar with the area. I live off of Pine Top Trail, and it is my little safe haven because I'm a member of the fishing club of the stream.
I would say this to my wife, just walking away, one final thought, this opportunity won't come again.
I understand.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Virginia Yanza, and I live with Richard. But the thing is, ever since Vicky arrived at the property and started improving it, it's been great. Now I have a different reason for, I have two grandsons that live with us, and they go over there and they play. When it's raining or they've been in the creek or any of the things, they come in soaking wet, and the boots that they wear are wet inside as well as out. But they have a good time, and they tell us all about what they've learned. So all of the kids there learn a lot. I have a golden retriever who's a therapy dog. We go over there and we read to the kids that come. And we have a special event on the 29th for autism, which our one grandson is autistic. He goes over there and he comes home and tells us all about what's going on over there. So he's learning a lot about being outside. But reading to the kids and being there is really great for the children.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments.
I'm a little shorter. Hello. My name is Jacqueline Valenzuela. My address is 477 Johnston Drive. I'm currently a student at Moravian University, and I have a long history with Camel's Hump Farm. I started as a volunteer by chance during COVID. And I've only found myself, learned a lot, and learned the value of nature, the value of teaching kids and giving them something to hold on to when life gets hard. I have found what I wanted to do with life. I have found hope in when I had a very, I was in a very dark place. And now I have, I'm going for graphic design at Moravian University. And I have only given it my all in helping this nonprofit. I'm going to hand out very quickly some things.
Sure.
I made all these.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. So I'm only in my second year, but I gave it my best, and I have worked with Victoria, to get these events going for the community.
Please. Thank you.
So, I have also been a camp counselor there, and I have worked with these kids, and I have seen the joy of them coming in the morning, and them telling me all about what they want to do during the day. When we had the little kids there, it was wonderful, and I think the emphasis on having all the kids there is one of the most beautiful things you'll ever see. I would love to see this place prosper and grow, and I only hope you guys consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment, questions? Again, I'm going to, I said this earlier, this particular area that's being discussed now, being over where I reside, and that just the monocacy in the stream and the fit, and my little guys love it. So it's unique, and certainly I think this text amendment is not only going to help support this in particular, but certainly any type of project that is on the south side or on the west end or north, whatever that may be. So I think this is something that is probably long overdue, and I certainly would support this amendment and pass it along to council. with my support. So at this time, I will entertain a motion on the text amendment.
Chairman Malosky,
Mr. Malosey.
I will make a motion to forward to the East Bethlehem City Council, the Planning Commission's support of zoning ordinance amendments to Article 1302 definitions, Article 1304 allowed uses in primarily residential districts, Article 1305 allowed uses in primarily non-residential zoning districts, and Article 1322 additional requirements for specific uses to define and add provisions for environmental education centers as they have been presented to us by the Planning Bureau.
I will second that. Roll, please.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Malosey,
Yes.
Mr. Burgos,
Yes.
Ms. Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. Malosky.
Yes. I want to thank everyone for coming here this evening to support this text amendment. Obviously, as we said, it is being passed along with our recommendation to City Council. I implore you to show up for the council meeting and give the same type of passion that you gave here tonight, and I commend you for that. So thank you. Ms. Heller, any discussion items, things that we need to talk about before our next meeting?
No, not tonight, I don't think. I don't think I know of anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Anything that's listed in the whole that we need to?
I was actually just looking at that. Quite a few of these have been continued on and continued on. I don't know that there really are land developments that would be ready for next month's review.
No, most of them expirations aren't until June or July. There's one here for September.
Well, there are some for June, but we're going to have
Right.
to get extensions for those because we have not reviewed anything in months for some of these.
I can give an update actually on the first two. On 968 Benner Avenue, part of that involves an intergovernmental agreement that needs to be signed by the property owner, the city, and Lower Saucon Township. Lower Saucon Township has recently approved the proposed intergovernmental agreement. So we're in the stage where the applicants can sign, and now it needs to be considered and approved by the city here. So that's on the first one, and the second one on the list, Selfridge Street. Those properties are the subject of a current zoning appeal pending in the Northampton County Court of Common Pleas. The applicant had sought certain relief that the city opposed. The applicant was successful before the zoning hearing board, and the city filed an appeal to that decision.
Thank you for that.
So yeah, I'm not just a pretty face up here. I can contribute.
Counselor, appreciate that. And don't ever sell yourself short. You are a pretty face. Any other questions for Ms. Heller in terms of the summary of upcoming? As she explained, there are some things that are probably going to have to be extended. I'm still surprised that Sheets is there. That's going to be a total demo.
It's a demo and a rebuild.
Wow.
And that's not an old development.
So if
And that might be on next month. I know that Arts Quest at 25 West 3rd is eager to be on. We'll see if that is ready in time. Yeah, I don't know of any others, actually.
Any other discussion items, planning commission members? Oh, it's a 1 hour meeting, even though we started late, my fault. That's a great job. Hopefully everyone can get out and enjoy some of this glorious weather with nature. So motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thanks for coming. See you next month.
Take care now.